Before we start any modeling in Modo, we're just going to go over how you can optimize it for faster modeling. By default, Modo is pretty good at modeling, but it can be sped up significantly by doing a couple of simple things here. And by doing a couple of simple things, I mean I've done all the work for you. You just have to drag some folders in the correct places and just get used to the workflow here. So the workflow I'm presenting here is something I've developed over a lot of years. The hotkeys and scripts is something I've collected over a long time. And this is just here for you to use if you find them to be useful. The first thing you need to do is you need to go onto the material directory in the video. Here are two folders. Under Modo, there are two folders here. One is called Henning 901, another one is called Scripts. If you go to your Loxology directory, which should be under your username, app data, roaming, and Loxology, this is where you have all your licensing file and your config, scripts, and all that kind of stuff. What I want you to do is I want you to put the Henning 901 directory under config. This is simply creating a kit for you, which will load all this up at startup. The scripts one, this contains a couple of scripts I've collected as well. And you just put these under the scripts directory here. So simply just copy paste them in here. And they should be loaded in at startup. Under here, we have the config. You don't have to worry about this one at all. We have Modo hotkeys. The Modo hotkeys one is a fairly interesting one. This is where all my hotkeys are stored. And this is done in a very clean manner. Whenever I add new hotkeys, I don't do it the traditional way. The traditional way is to do your hotkey thing, add the key, and store it in a config, which will be down here, export config. And this gets very messy very quickly. Modo does not have a good config management system, far from it. Pretty much every single user who's new to Modo will have to redo their entire hotkey setup if they're deleting their preferences. And this is extremely annoying. So this is the reason I have this document here. Every time I'm doing a new hotkey, I'm simply taking the last bit of code here, the last 3 lines. I'm duplicating them over. So I take this bit here. And this is simply just means this key is triggering this command here. So here we have Shift W triggers this script. And I'll show you how you can do this right now. So we just duplicated this guy here into the Modo hotkey one. Duplicate the last 3 lines. Hit F5 to bring up the command history. And let's say we want to add loop slice to hotkey here. So then we go under mesh edit, loop slice. And now you can see we get a command here saying tool loop slice on. If you click on this, this is the command for triggering loop slice. And that's it. That's simply what's triggering it. So if we want to run this again, we can simply paste this in here and loop slice will now be run. So what we do is we simply just take this command here and we replace this command here. So now we already copied it in. We just take this and just, sorry, my cursor is being a bit troublesome, and just replace this. If it's a script, you need an @ before. If it's not a script, just replace it here. And then we just set a hotkey. So if you want this to be Shift F, just type Shift F, and there we go. This is how I do my hotkeys. Save this document and restart Modo. Then it's going to be loaded in automatically. I would highly recommend doing it like this. It might seem a bit complicated, but this is the cleanest way I've found to do hotkeys in Modo. So with this said, just close it down. I don't need this anymore. Then we have my UberPy. UberPy is this guy here. We're going to go over this later on. First, we're going to cover my hotkeys. The first hotkey I'm going to show you is based on selection. So first one is number 2, not on numpad, but on the left side of the keyboard. Number 2 will invert the selection. This makes it a lot quicker to select anything. You want to select everything but this. Just invert selection and just hit Ctrl X to cut it out. Very handy. Then we have, by default, you can expand and contract the selection, meaning doing this. This is really handy, but the problem is the hotkey is a bit cumbersome. It's Shift up and down arrow to do this. Which means unless you have exceptionally long fingers, you need to use 2 hands. I do not have exceptionally long fingers, so I've remapped this to Shift X to expand and Shift C to contract. This is all in the document, which follows along with the tutorial, by the way. So Shift X to expand and Shift C to contract. You can really quickly do this with just 1 hand now. Then we have a nice guy, which is, if you hit the G key, it's going to trigger a script called select that mesh. I'm just going to duplicate this guy a couple of times. This is a default hotkey, by the way. Control D will duplicate the item. So if I want to select this entire thing, I'm on this sphere now, but I want to select this guy. I can just simply hover over it and just hit the G key. This is really handy if you have a lot of objects in your scene. And it not just does it select all the polys, it also selects the items as well. Very handy. So that's duplication, that's selection. Next one we're going to look at is duplication. Let's just delete these guys. So Control D will duplicate the item, but a lot of time you don't want to do that. You simply want to duplicate the polygons within an item. And the way I've done this is I have a little macro, which is mapped to Control, Shift, and C. This will just simply duplicate around. It will simply just copy paste it and then activate the move tool. So you can very quickly just duplicate stuff around here. Then we have another one, which is really handy. This is the move brush. This is mapped to the S key. If you do a lot of animation, I would really recommend finding a different key than S key, because I believe that's auto hotkey, or sorry, that's auto key. But I would really recommend getting this key to this command to something. Get the move brush to a key, because you can so easily do big changes to your models. Then we have quick bridge. Quick bridge is awesome. It's just a bridge operation, which is quick. What this is doing is, you want to bridge this, just select this, and go boom. This is Shift B. The reason I like this is simply because it's bypassing the command. Now it's 1 click. If you use the tool, it's 2. Then you have to actually select the tool, then you have to click it. It's just a quick bridge. Then we have add loop. Add loop is doing exactly that. You guessed it, it adds a loop. This is set to Q. Next up, we have thicken. Thicken does also exactly that. It thickens the model. Shift T. You can also see here, if you remapped it, or if the command has a hotkey, you can also just see it in the interface here, which is really nice. Thicken is really nice if you want to thicken your model like this. Then we have linear align. I'll show what this is doing. Let's see, where do we find this one? Deform, there we go. Don't worry about what I'm doing now, I'll explain this shortly. So let's say we have a cube like this, or we have a cube like this, and you want stuff to be perfectly aligned. You want this here to be perfectly aligned like this. You can simply just run linear align, and boom, it aligns it. This is set to Shift E. Then we have another one which is doing something similar. This here is simply just averaging out the axis, but then we have one which is really handy as well. This is called stretch snap to 0. So let's say you want to you want to scale this down like this, and you want this to go to 0. You can of course just go here and hit 0, or you can just drag this and then run the script. This is set to Control Alt S. So just scale it and then just run down. Let's see if we can get this to work. There we go. Sorry, Shift Alt S. This is going to be in my notes as well. Really handy for aligning stuff over. The next one we're going to cover is subdivision toggling. This is the exact same hotkey we have by default in Modo. But by default in Modo, if you select first in these polys here and you hit the tab key, it's going to convert only those polys into subdivision surfaces. So we have a script here, which is super nice, which is mapped to the tab key. If you hit the tab key, it's going to convert the entire connected object, which means you're never going to have issues with polys and regular polys and subdivision surfaces in the same object. You never want that. I cannot think of a single reason why that would be handy. It would just create huge problems for you down the line. So this does not care. You don't have to select the entire thing and then convert. You just select one poly, 2 polys, and then you just hit the tab key. Extremely handy. Next one we're going to cover is the push tool. The push tool looks at the normal of a polygon here, and it simply just pushes it outwards. Like this. This is amazing if you're going to do something like thickening this up or thinning it out. So if we have this selected here, or nothing selected, because if Modo is nothing is selected, everything is selected, and run the push key, a push tool, which is Shift Q, we can now just thicken it and make it a lot thinner as we go. I use this very frequently. As if you were to reduce the radius here, you can't really do it. You can try to scale stuff down, but you can't really do that. The best way is definitely the push tool. Next up, we have the merge tool, or merge verts. This is amazing. Select the vert, and it is 3 key on the keyboard. This works for polys, edges, and verts. It's a lot faster than having to go into vertex, join average, and hit here. So you can also see the 3 keys next to join average. Join averaged means that it's going to look at the position, and it's going to put the merge in the center. If you do join, regular join, you can see what happens. It goes from this to that. While averaged will put them in the center. This is what you want most of the time. Very handy. Then we have perfect circle, or rather the equivalent, which is, let me see if you find that one. Here we go. Radial align, or which is doing exactly what the old perfect circle script was doing. Select the polys and run the tool. This is Control P as a hotkey. This will simply convert any selection into a perfect circle. So do this and hit Control P. Very useful. You can keep building on this on top as well. Just bevel it in. Add some loops here using the add loop tool like we discussed before. And then we have a very nice circle. Exceptionally useful if you're dealing with mechanical stuff. There are also multiple options here you can also try out, which is worth checking out. Because it's a very powerful tool. You can rotate around, but the default setting, which simply just converts it to a circle, is fine for most of the time. Very handy stuff. Then we have the UberPi, which I haven't discussed up to this point. You might have seen me use it already. And if you've seen some other videos in Modo, I've definitely used it there. So the way we access this is Control Q. It might look slightly different in your version than it does in mine, because maybe I modified it afterwards and improved it a little bit here. But in general, this should be pretty similar. So we have multiple things here. Let's go through the main tool here, number 1, which is north, creation. Creation means you're creating something, such as a pen, cube, sphere, cylinder, a camera, area light. These are the things I use the most. So if I want to do something with the pen tool, I just hit Control Q, pen, and so on. If you want to make a cube, you just do that. If you want to make a light, and so on and so forth. Very simple stuff, but very useful. That means you don't have to go up to all the different menus and click the various things. You just do everything through one menu. So let's just have a cube so we have something to talk about here. We can also access the various toggle lights, toggle cameras through Control 1. Very handy. We also have a couple different options here, like topology mode. Very useful. This is obviously if you're doing retopology. We have merge meshes. So let's say we have a couple more of these. So select it and drag it out. We can now merge all the 3 ones together by going to General and Merge Meshes. So they're now into one. Let's just disable topology mode because we don't need that. We also have the ruler tool. The ruler tool is amazing in the way that you can measure distances. We now know exactly how long this is. Very, very useful when setting the scale for objects. Then we have delete empty layers. So we can see here we now have mesh and a toroid, and they're empty. So we're doing this, it's going to delete those empty layers. This is a really useful tool as a part of cleanup process. Then we have cleanup. This is just activating the mesh cleanup script we have in Modo, which is found in geometry and then mesh cleanup. This is very handy and you really want to use this a lot. It solves a lot of strange issues you might have in your mesh, and it also flags various issues. We have align tools, which is the align tool, which is simply this one. You have a flip normal here, and you just hit align, and they all align. Perfect. We have select n-gons, which selects n-gons. So if you have huge n-gon, and we go here and we select n-gons, it's now going to light up. Very useful. And that's pretty much it for the general one. Then we have topology pen, which we're going to use a lot in the retopology chapter. So don't worry about that one. Partial select. This is very, very useful. I'll show you. I'll delete all this. I'll just create a new poly here. So by default, let's say you want to select all these polys here. You want to select all these polys here. And if you want to select it with the selection tool like this, you have to select all of them like this. But partial select does this. It means if the polys are partially selected by your cursor or by your selection rectangle or lasso here, it's going to select the entire thing. Extremely useful in a lot of cases. So again, let's say you want to select all these, you just go boop. Very useful for a lot of things. For instance, if we have a sphere like this, you want to select all of these. You have to select all of them like so. But now we can simply go here. Way, way less prone to errors. Then we have center, center. This simply means that the center of the object is going to be put exactly there. So if we move the object now, the center of the object should still be in the center. So this is this is what we refer to as a pivot in other applications. And so if you're rotating this now, you're going to rotate the object along this item, and you're going to now rotate it along this point here, which is a huge problem if you want to do a proper animation here. So center, center is going to center the center. So now it's in the center here. So it's pretty much center the pivot in other applications, like I said before. Then we have lasso. This toggles between, let's see here. This toggles between lasso and a rectangle selection. Yeah, I use this a lot as well. You can also just right click and go to lasso style and toggle between lasso and rectangle. But I do this so often that I just have it set to a key here. Then we have zero. Zero is very handy. Let's say we're doing some modeling here, and we're going to do this later on as well. We want to have all the polys here, all these guys here, in the exact center of the world. Actually, let's show a different example here. So what zero is going to do, it's going to put all of those in the center. This is similar to, or rather identical to, doing set position and setting this to 0. Extremely useful when we're modeling. We want to model with this based on the 0. So you use this a lot for modeling. We're going to definitely be using this as we're doing retopology later on. So hit 0 and boom, there you go. You don't have to do any of what I just showed you in this video. When it comes to hotkeys or the UberPy or anything like this, this is just my setup, and it does speed my workflow up significantly. Maybe it doesn't help for you, but for me, it definitely speeds my general modeling workflow up quite a bit. So this is more take it or leave it. If you find it useful, feel free to modify the setup, improve it so it helps you. And feel free to let me know as well on mail@flipromans.com if you have any suggestions on how we can improve this setup here.